This month I was supposed to get Greek food and failed, but I did go to London, so let's talk about that instead. So I actually wrote all of the notes for this episode basically at the start of the month, and I'm recording this nearly a week earlier than I would usually for when I record before a podcast comes out, because I'm going on a trip the week this is supposed to come out, and obviously just won't be here to do it then. I am going to have a section about that trip, but everything else is going to be recorded and edited before we go away, and then that'll be done after we come back, and then it should just slot right in. So it might sound a little bit different, but that's the basic reason why. What I can talk about though, because honestly very little has happened between this podcast and the last podcast in terms of recording, because it's only been about a week. What has happened though is it was my wedding anniversary, and considering we're going on a trip to London, we didn't have a lot of money to spend for it, so we just went out for the day, wandered the shops, and then decided to get some food at home, just order something in. So we got back about 6 and put in the order straight away, and it says it will be there at 7:30, which sounds like a long time, but the place is kind of far away and we had some stuff to do, so I wasn't that bothered. 7:30 comes around and it says there's a delay. It's not a big deal. It's a Sunday night, so I kind of assume a lot of people are ordering from them. I've ordered from them before, and the food's really good, but the delivery's not great, so I wasn't too bothered. But it's only supposed to be here now at 8 o'clock, so it'll be okay. So 8 comes around, and there's another delay, and then at 8:30, there's another delay, and then at 9 o'clock, it's been 3 hours, and I call them, and they say, oh, we'll contact the driver, and then at 9:30, I call them again, and they say, the driver doesn't want to pick up the food, but they'll try again, and then at 9:45, I ring them again, and they say, oh, well, I'll try again, and then at 10:50, the guy rings me back and just goes, yeah, I'm just going to refund your food, because apparently, the drivers just refuse to deliver it to us, and I have no idea why. We've ordered from this place exactly once before, so it's not like I've got some sort of feud with the drivers. I've got no problems with delivering from anywhere else. It's just this one place. Just drivers hate us for some reason. And the problem is that we use one of those, delivery services. Well, we use Just Eat, for anyone who knows what that is. And if there is a problem with your food before it's been delivered, there's basically nothing you can do. At best, you can call the, takeaway itself, the restaurant, and they might be able to do something, but they probably can't, because it's mostly an automated system. So they have very little control over it, and you have no control over it. So the only person at that time who can actually do anything about it is the driver, and the drivers were refusing to do anything. So I then just kept getting emails for the next, this was 10 o'clock, and I got my final email at 2:45 in the morning, which was when the restaurant closed. And that was an email saying, your order's been cancelled, we'll refund you. But yeah, we ordered food at 6 o'clock, and it got cancelled at 3 in the morning. We ended up having to go back out again at basically 11 o'clock at night, just after everything had been sorted, and walked down into the town and got a takeaway from there, which was fine. We just went to a place we'd been previously I say we've been previously, it's the place we normally go to, but we just wanted something a bit nicer. So we, we ordered this Greek place that I really like, but probably just never going to go again now. My main plan for this podcast then, considering that I'm doing it so early and I'm going away, so I can't really do much, I thought it'd be nice to tell you a story about a game that I made that never came out. You're probably aware of the other games I've made. Talked about Sarut before, because I released that on Steam, and there's a few others too that are definitely less popular. I mean, that's not exactly popular, but you know what I mean. I made a few games with my team from university. We made 2 for Android, and 1 that's on itch. First, we made a game called Pigloose, which is an endless runner, which we released on Android in 2017. That's about a pig who escapes from a space farm and gets chased by a combine harvester. Like I say, it's just an endless runner. Then there's a game called Miko Match, which is the second game we released, but actually the third game we made. And that's a match 3 game, which features characters from our other games. I have this mechanic where you could swap tiles around from wherever you feel like to create a big match, and then you could pop the match when you felt like it. And it was all about keeping a combo going to keep your timer up. And the timer would get progressively shorter, so you had to make more pops, but the bigger pops you made, the more score you got. It was fun. And then there's also Project Makeover, which is the second game we made, but it's a much bigger project, so that actually ran alongside us making other things. And that is a collectathon platformer. It's more of a demo than a full game, because it's just 1 level. The idea of it would be 1 level of a larger game, but we never got around to making the rest of the game. I made some more updates to it after we finished. I added in things like you play as a meerkat and you've got a snake that's your partner, and your snake would, at the time, it could attack. Your attack was that the snake would move, but there was not really much else to it. So I made it so that the snake could shoot venom. So you had like a ranged attack as well, stuff like that. But yeah, so those are the main games we made. And then on my own, a few years later, I made Saru. But between those, there was actually another game, which basically I made on my own, but that we never finished, and so we never released. And actually, not only did we never release it, no one else but me has ever actually seen it. I mean, my wife's seen it, but the rest of my team never saw it. We finished the course at the end of August, and there's still a little bit more to do, but like the actual work was done. So we took a break, we went to Gamescom, then we finished off the last bit of the course, which was an exhibition where we showed off all of the pieces we'd been working on, and then a little bit more of a break, and then decided to meet up again and talk about making a new game. I had an idea to make something and spoke to them about it, and they thought it was a good idea. I figured I would just make a prototype basically before I met up with them next. This was the start of October, and I was meeting them in the middle of November, and we'd gotten quite used to making games in a short time frame, so I thought it would be cool to get something done for Christmas. I've always liked those games where I don't really know how to describe them. You'd like launch off a thing and go as far as possible in a single run, and then fail, and then you would like buy upgrades to make you go further. There was a game called Yeti Sports. That's the sort of thing I'm talking about, although with less penguin death. I've always liked those games, thought we could do something like that, and something Christmassy. The concept came around of a game called Santa's Sleigh. Basically, you played as Santa. Can't remember why, but there was some reason why your sleigh couldn't fly. What you would do is you would like launch off and get as far as you can, and then crash, and then start again. But I added in this system where there was like hills, and you could like dive bomb into the hills, and then ramp off the other side to prolong your time. Kind of like how the movement works in Haste. I got all this done, and got all the upgrades ready. So the upgrades were things like it would reduce friction so that you could slide further, or there were presents you could collect, which was the currency, and I would make the presents worth more money. And then there was another one which would make nighttime longer, because obviously Santa can only fly at nighttime. And this was also the first game where I put effort into colorblind accessibility options. It wasn't really a huge deal. There wasn't really many places it made sense to do anything, but I had a system where it would change the colors of certain objects and text based on the version of colorblindness you had. You could choose it in the options and it would change everything to match. I mean, it was decently fun. It was a bit too easy, if anything. I remember I had a lot of trouble getting the map to work because things wouldn't just quite line up. And if they didn't line up perfectly, the sleigh would like clip into stuff and then it would just break. And what I ended up doing was I ended up actually having, it was just a ball. The sleigh itself was actually a ball. So what there was a ball that would roll along the world, basically. That was what was flying. And then there was a model on top of it with no collision. So you could see it, but it didn't actually collide with the world or anything that looked like a sleigh. And that was how it like got around the like clipping issues and stuff. But yeah, it was like decently fun. So we decided to meet up at a regional game dev night. So like loads of game devs from all over the city would meet in this one place and they'd like show off their games and like talk about their projects and look to each other for feedback and stuff like that. I remember there was one game which was about being drunk and going to a supermarket to buy more alcohol. And I spoke to the guy about how it'd be, you were trying to do it while being drunk, but there was a time limit to it. Like the game failed if you stopped being drunk, and that was a timer. But I was talking to him about how like, because you're drunk, it was like hard to do things. And I was talking to him about how as you got less and less drunk, it should get easier to do things. He didn't agree with me, but I just thought it would make sense because he was very focused on it being like a difficulty curve. And I was like, yeah, but thematically it makes more sense this way. But anyway, because of where we were, I didn't take anything to show them, but told them all about it, told them I got this working, they thought it was a good idea. And the idea is that I would show them all this and they would like work on the art assets for stuff and then I would stick everything together and we'd be done. While we were there, I'm going to say both of them. I know at least one of them had this happen and I think the other one may have already had it happen. But while we were there, at least one of them got a message saying that they'd been hired for a job that they'd interviewed for recently. I won't say where, but there were two other members of my team and one got hired at a place further north of us and one got hired at a place much further south of us. So they ended up on opposite ends of the country. So that was also the night when Studio Hex ended. Basically, it's just me now. The name Studio Hex is because it started with 6 of us, and over the course of 13 months it went from 6 to me. It's just me now. But, I mean, it's fine. I still like making stuff, and I'm still going to keep using the name. I still like making stuff under that name. I feel like now I could probably have just done it all myself, but at the time, I mean, my art skills aren't great. but I definitely put a lot more effort into it with all the Sarut stuff. I made way more models for that game. Every model that's in that game is something I made, which is one of the reasons why I did it. I had an idea to make a game, and I wanted to do it, and I wanted to do everything in it. The only thing in that game that I did not make is the font. I mean, there's engine stuff in it, obviously, because I used Unreal Engine. There's that stuff in it. But all of the art assets and everything is made by me. But now I feel like I could have made it on my own. But at the time, I was not confident enough. So that was the end, really. I've debated contacting all the people I used to be in the team with. So not just the people that were in this story, but the original other 3 as well. And trying to put like a compilation of all the games together. Because I've still got everything. I've still got all the assets and everything. So I could do it and just stick them all together in one little compilation and just release it. But it's a bit awkward, not really for personal reasons, like I'm sure if I'd spoke to her about it, they'd probably agree. More because some of, if not the majority of, the work was done while we were at university. The university's a bit weird on what we can do with stuff. I think technically we're not allowed to make any money off things that we made while in university. It's not like a big deal, but like I wouldn't want to release it on Steam because that just costs me money then. I don't know, I've thought about it, but it probably won't happen. But yeah, that's the story of how my team ended. And that's the story of how I killed Santa. So I'm back from London, and while we did a lot, the vast majority of it was just either walking or looking at shops, so there's not a huge amount I can tell you. The first day we arrived about around 1 o'clock, and then we didn't make it from the train to the hotel until 7, so it took us about 6 hours to get there. Mostly just because it was a Sunday, which means, for those of you who aren't aware, the shops here have to close earlier on a Sunday. I know in some places shops are just entirely closed. Here they are allowed to open for 6 hours. Places generally will close sometime between 4 and 6. Sometimes they're open a bit later. I found more places in London tend to open later. Also, there are certain shops that are allowed to open longer based on like the size that they are. Like a really tiny shop is allowed to basically stay open for as long as it wants. But yeah, what I was getting at is the reason we didn't just go straight to the hotel is because the hotel was an hour away from the train. And then all the shops were closer to the train station. So what that meant was if we'd gone to the hotel and back, by the time we'd got back, we'd have maybe an hour and a half to look at every shop we wanted to. And we were only there for 2 days. And one of the days was the day of my wife's meeting. So we didn't have a huge amount of time. So we decided instead to go and do the shops like straight off the train. So we walked from the train station down into Soho and had a look around there because we've been there before and we like it there. And then we went from there to Oxford Street and Regent Street, which is where like all the sort of like famous kind of shops are. It's where Hamleys is, if you're familiar with that. And we bought a couple of toys from there. We got one like little polar bear and an onion because we were just amused by a cuddly onion. And then we looked at the DJI store because I was debating buying a drone because they were really cheap there, but I didn't in the end. Wandered around, did some Christmas markets at different places. Oh, another thing we did actually was we went to King's Cross and St Pancras because for some reason, despite having been to London dozens of times, neither of us had been there before, so we just walked over and had a look. I don't really like Harry Potter anyway, but the platform 9 3/4 we've got is so boring. It's not even a train platform. It's literally just a wall. Just a random wall is what I mean. It's not anywhere near the trains. So we went there, we went to some shops, we went around some Christmas market stalls, which was really boring because they were almost exactly the same as the ones they have up here. And then we went to a thing called the graffiti tunnels, which are like public art spaces basically, which my wife really wanted to go to. I walked around a lot. Like I say, we got off the train at 1 and we arrived at the hotel at 7 in the end. That didn't even include us eating. So we pretty much just dropped bags off at the hotel and I went straight back out again. And went to Spitalfields Market, which we've been to previously. And I had a really nice burger from there the last time and I got a different one this time, which was also very good. My wife got a buffalo cauliflower because she doesn't like meat. She's not vegetarian, she just doesn't like meat. And that was pretty much the first day. We just spent way too much money and wandered around. The second day, we went out for breakfast and then got the tube to my wife's meeting. So it was her PhD defense. And we were there for about 3 hours total. 2 of those were her actual meeting. And then there was some time either side for like meeting people and shit. It went fine. It could have gone better, but it didn't go worse. So she's passed. She's passed with corrections, which is pretty much what everyone does. Like basically no one passes a PhD without corrections. But it just means that she's passed under the assumption that she makes the corrections to her work. And you get an amount of time to do those corrections. And then as long as you do the work in that time, you have a PhD. Now she's just got to fix things. It's what we expected. She was a bit upset she didn't just pass, but I think it's good. Then from there, we went to Canary Wharf because there was a cake that we got last time. So we got cake to kind of celebrate. We were hoping it would be more Christmassy, but it kind of wasn't. It was nice, but not especially Christmassy there, which is what we expected. Then we got the tube from there. We wanted to go to Fortnum and Mason, but I thought Buckingham Palace might be nice at Christmas. Turns out I was wrong, but because of that we got off a stop earlier at Westminster and walked from Westminster all the way to Buckingham Palace, which is kind of far, but it was just cool seeing all the stuff. Some of it we've seen before, we've been around Westminster before, but for some reason neither of us had been to Westminster Abbey before either. So we went there, went over to Buckingham Palace, then walked from there over to Fortnum and Mason, because they're actually pretty close to each other, and then spent 3 hours in Fortnum and Mason, because it's massive. I was already interested in going just because I knew it was a really old shop. It's 300 years old. I don't know if that specific location is, but it's the main location. But the store as a whole is 300 years old. And it's just massive. It's really big. I've been in bigger stores, but it's big and it's dense and it's really fancy. They've got doormen on all the doors who hold the doors open for you when you walk in. But we just walked around and we bought a couple of things and we spent 80 quid just in that one shop. We bought just some food things and we bought a cuddly mole, and that was my wife's present for doing her PhD basically. And then from there we just walked up our street because I thought it looked nice, and it turns out it was I said before that Regent Street and Oxford Street are where the well-known shops are, but this is where the rich people shops are, and they were all done up really nice with really fancy Christmas decorations, so I was more interested in that. So we walked down there and then went over and got some pizza. I wasn't that bothered at first, but they had a beef shin and mushroom pizza that I decided to get a piece of. Because the way it works is you go in and they sell massive pizzas, 22-inch pizzas or whatever, but you get a quarter of them. So we got one each. She got the margarita and I got the beef shin and mushroom. And then we both still kind of wanted something afterwards, and it wasn't that expensive. So we went to a burger place as well, and I got a cheeseburger and she got just a milkshake. And then we walked back to the hotel. And on the way back, we stopped off at a place we'd been to the day before just to get drinks. And then went to sleep and got up and left pretty much because we were there we arrived at 1 o'clock and we left at 1. So we were there for almost exactly 48 hours. It's weird. We've been previously, it feels like the times we've been before, we've done less stuff in more time. The times we go somewhere for not very much time, I feel the need to pack as much in as possible. But the times when we go to somewhere for a week, I feel I just waste all my time doing nothing. When I go down to London, I'll be oh, I like this. And then I'll see a person and just be no, I don't. There was a bit where I got some food from a shop and it was just really big and it didn't come in a box for some reason. I was walking past a stall and I was oh, can I just have a box? And they're no. I'm okay, well, fuck you too. Because just up here, they're just yeah, okay. Up here, it's just a totally reasonable thing and they would just give you a box. Because they're oh yeah, you could see you struggling, here's a box. That would just be fine. But down there, they're all dicks. Just every individual person seems so rude. And it's just weird. Whereas, I was saying as well, also, it feels kind of like Tokyo does to me, in that it's more a collection of cities all near each other, rather than one cohesive place. And it's not a bad thing, but it's more you can walk from one place to another and it feels very different just going between them. We might, depending on how things go, end up going back next year. Not for this. I did that talk a few years ago I spoke about, and then we had a falling out with them, kind of. Well, we had a falling out over money, but then they paid us the money back and told us we could come back again if we wanted to. So, as long as we get paid, we might go back next year. But yeah, it was fine. I don't know, I feel I don't dislike it as much as I used to, but at the same time, I still don't like the people down there. I feel the people are rude. Maybe I'm not great, but I feel the people down there are just generally ruder than they are up here. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a quick update on what happened. For the channels, I'm still making my Game of the Year video, but it turns out that's going to be even bigger than I thought it was. I'm about 1/7 of the way through writing it right now, though bear in mind I'm writing these notes 2 weeks before you're going to hear this podcast, and another week before that video is supposed to be out, but it's still a massive video. I think almost longer than anything I've made before. Not quite. Some of those woodworking videos are pretty long, but it's definitely the longest scripted thing I'll have made. It's looking at the moment like it might be about 4 times longer than last year's video, although maybe not, because last year's script was really long, but most of that was all about one game, whereas this is just about a lot of individual games. So it might not actually be as long as I'm thinking. I'll find out when I've finished writing it. But I've written about 1/7 of the sections so far, so we'll see. Because that's so much work, I've actually tried to get ahead in as many other places as I could. So I've actually already made all of the retro impressions and sentences for the year, and I've made the sentence compilation, which is going to come out on New Year's Eve. I'm making this early, like I said, as well. But yeah, I'm just trying to get as much done as I can, but even then it's going to be tight. I might have to rearrange videos, like I said. I'm hoping not, but again, we're just going to have to see, because it's big. I'm worried now that it's actually going to end up being really small. Maybe it will end up being really short for some reason, but it's looking like it's going to be a pretty long video. As for next year, I know there are going to be some pretty big changes coming, but that's not until like September, because in August I'm going to finish doing all my retro impressions, so something's got to go in those places, but we've got 9 months till then. I've got ideas what I'm going to do, but I'll see, maybe something else will come up, maybe I'll get some new ideas before then. And then immediate plan is I'm going to start Yakuza 6 at the start of January, and then everything else is just going to carry on. Special thanks to all of my patrons. You can join them over at patreon.com/Holden Gatsby, and for $1 a month you'll get to see what I'm working on early, wallpapers for all of my LPs, exclusive roles in my Discord, and any other rewards I might think of. You can also just follow me there if you want to for free, as it's probably the best place to see all of my content as soon as it's available. There's links to the Patreon, along with my Discord, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Twitch, and all the other podcast platforms in the description for this episode. Finally, don't forget you can email me using podencastby@gmail.com if you've got anything you want to say. Thanks for sticking around. Bye. Special thanks to my patrons, Justin Wood, Hobbs, and Koopy Vegeta. You can join my patrons at patreon.com/Holden Gatsby, check out my TikTok and Twitter @Holden Gatsby, and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Holden Gatsby. Don't forget to subscribe to all of my channels. If you want more, you can watch my last video now, but if not, then thanks for sticking around. Bye.